Well, I don't think I've ever done this before, and I may never do this again, but I saw this discussion of children and how to deal with them when they're being difficult and how to preserve the will and so forth. And I thought I would share a couple of thoughts. The two of the ladies involved in this discussion know how well I lived up to these or how much I failed. So I value their judgment. So I'll be happy to accept whatever their verdict is. But anyway, here are things that I at least aspire to, whether I ever succeeded at them or not. And here's one of my favorite quotes on this particular issue because it really is important to me. The will should be guided and molded, but not ignored or crushed. Save the strength of the will. In the battle of life, it will be needed. And this is really crucial. But how do we do this when their will and our wills clash, a battle of wills? This is a common experience for every parent, even with a child who appears compliant, and I won't name any names, but sometimes compliance is only in appearance. And here's my suggestion, and we tried to implement this as our children were growing up, and again, they can testify to this success or lack of the same. But the answer is whenever possible, give choices. Now, sometimes these choices will take the form of, if you don't go to bed now, you lose this doll or that, maybe screen time or something like that. You choose. Do you want to lose this or do you want to go to bed now? And you make one of the choices very disagreeable. It doesn't have to be punitive in the real negative and painful sense, but it has to be something they really want. And so you give them a choice. You can choose between these two outcomes. And it makes a huge difference because they're choosing it, they're selecting it. And I can tell you, I've worked with thousands of children over the years. And out of that 1,000, about 4 or 5 were really scary kids. I mean, these were evil kids. I hate to say that, but you'd have to know them. These were sociopaths in the making. But what I found was that if they agreed to do something like this, we gave choices, and you said, now do you agree to do this? And they'd avoid saying yes if possible. If you said you did agree to this, if they eventually say yes, they'll live up to it. So enlisting the will whenever you can is helpful. Another couple of ways of doing this that we did is you make a list of all the chores that you're going to do in a week or a month or however you decide to divide up the time. And then you write each chore on a slip of paper and you have the participants sit around the table. Obviously, they have to be age-appropriate tasks. But once your children get to be 5 or 6, most of the tasks that you really want done around the house, they can do. And I should stress that you should, the first time or two, you should do the chores with them so that they know what is expected. They know how to do it because they don't always know. But anyway, you list the chores on a slip of paper, and 1 week, one child goes first, and you go around the table, and everybody picks one, and each one picks one until they're done. Now, obviously, some people are going to get chores they really don't like. And they'll be the last ones chosen. But the fact that they chose them makes a difference, and you never can tell how this is going to work out because sometimes chores that you think a particular child would really hate, they find for them is easier, less disagreeable than something else. And over time, you may in fact find that the chores naturally divide up with their people self-select with whatever works for them. So that's the thing that I would suggest whenever possible, give choices. And sometimes as children get older, I relate this because we have to really give real choices. And Mavis came to me when our oldest child, Benjamin, was about 15, and she said, we got a problem with our teenage son. And I said, okay, because problems with teenage boys can be worrisome. And she said, he reads in his bed too late at night, and he wakes up late, and he's grumpy with the rest of us. And so she said, I want you to tell him to go to bed at 9 o'clock. Well, I didn't do that. I said, I will take care of it. And what I did was this, and this is an example of giving choices, because frankly, once we implemented this, there was no problem. I went to Ben, he was 15, and I said, look, you're reading late at night, I understand that, I like books myself, but we need you awake, and Mavis and I talked this over. We need you awake at 7:30 to do your chores in the morning, and we need you cheerful. You can't be grumpy. Now, you need to go to bed whatever it takes to make that possible. I leave that up to you. You see, had I said you must go to bed at 9 o'clock with a 15-year-old, what am I going to do? Am I going to wrestle him into place and hold chloroform over his nose until he goes to sleep? I don't think so. And you're inviting a battle you cannot possibly win. So instead of that, you say, here's the goal. Help me. You find a way to reach it. I need you to reach that goal. You do that. You're responsible to reach that goal. How you do that in any reasonable manner is up to you. It's another way of giving choice. And yes, I did say, if you're going to fight over chores, not over learning. Why did I say that? Well, obviously fighting isn't something that you want to do, and there will be times. There will be times, and we did this. We'd say, you simply have to trust me. This is something you must do, and you must do it now. There are safety issues. There are other things involved, and these are not negotiable. But the more you give choice, the more the children recognize that you're not just being arbitrary. By the way, negotiating is fine, but don't teach them to argue. When they start saying, well, I don't want to say, no, that's not an issue. For example, this with Ben would have been, I don't want to wake up at 7:30. So, well, that's not the issue. This is what you have to do. You have to be up at 7:30 and you have to be cheerful. How you achieve that is up to you. So you fight over the things that you can deal with, not over the things that you can't deal with. And when I said, if you're going to fight, if you're going to make mistakes, and you are going to make mistakes, I made many mistakes. I'm sorry to say that, but it's true. We learn to parent as our children grow, and some don't learn. But in any case, we learn and we make mistakes. It's a trial and error process for everybody. And there are no magic books that have all the answers, because children are different. If you have two children, you know right away they're not identical. They're not the same. Even twins who are identical in looks are often known by how different they are to the people who know them well. So what I'm saying is, if they hate doing the dishes or they hate making their bed, that's a problem, and it's a problem you wish you didn't have. It's a wish that you hadn't contributed to as they were growing up. But if they hate math, or they hate learning and reading, they hate geography or whatever it is, if they hate those things, those are hard deficits to make up. And those are things that can cost them for a very, very, very long time. And so that's why you want to stress and work on chores, because chores involve character, and character is transferable. One who's careful at washing dishes will be a careful mathematician. One who is conscientious about making their bed will be conscientious about doing their history, and so forth. So character is built in those little things that are called chores. And anyway, I hope this has been helpful. Let me know, and maybe I'll do this again if people find it useful. Anyway, I ask forgiveness for anything that I did wrong. My girls will tell me, and my son as well. And this is the value of experience, of what I learned from all these years, and tried to implement, aspired to implement. Thanks for your time.